welcome to Coffee with Marci. I am here with Mariann Crincolli. She is an attorney with Sussan, Greenwald, and Wesler. We're going to be discussing bullying today. She is going to tell us about our rights under special education law and the anti-bullying law. So welcome to the show.
Thank you
so much for coming on, Mariann. And you know, it's a really touchy subject, but it's something we really need to address. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to talk about you a little bit and about your firm. So why don't you tell us about your firm, first of all?
So Sussan, Greenwald, and Wesler has been in existence for approximately 40 years. We are a boutique law firm that specializes in advocating for children with special needs. We also do some general education law in the case of bullying, and we do special needs planning and estate planning, usually for families with children who have special needs, to ensure that family assets are protected for special needs children.
Great, that's wonderful. And let's hear about you.
So I have been practicing law for about 23 years.
Okay.
I started out as a law clerk. After law school, I went to Seton Hall Law School, and I worked at some general practice firms before I discovered that I had a passion for education law. And for many years I represented public school districts throughout the state of New Jersey, and I enjoyed it very much. I dealt with everything from student discipline, special education, tenure, open public contracts law, a whole variety of issues. I then started a family and went in-house for 6 years, where I was general counsel to 2 nonprofit organizations, Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Newark and New Community Corporation. And very recently I decided to switch sides and return to private practice on behalf of parents, and all I do is special education law, and I also represent families in bullying cases.
That's wonderful. And you're a Wyckoff mom.
I am. I have 2 children, 8 and 11.
Wow, and you recently moved here,
Yes,
right? New to Wyckoff?
Yes, about 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And the fact that you are now representing the parents and, you know, enlightening us the rights that we have.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for that. So what do parents need to know about special education and bullying?
They need to know a lot. Special education is a highly regulated area in the law, and special education is both federal and state law. So there's a federal law that protects students with disabilities and a state law that protects students with disabilities. And unfortunately, students who have disabilities are at a greater risk for bullying just because they are students with special needs.
Right.
It's important for parents to know that they have additional rights if their special needs child is either suspected of being bullied or suspected of being a bully. And so it's important that parents understand that every school district in the state of New Jersey is required to have an anti-bullying policy.
Okay.
The policy has to contain certain elements, one of which is the legal definition of bullying, because not every conflict between students is a bullying incident.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it doesn't violate some other code of conduct provision that the school has, but the legal definition of bullying is very specific.
Okay.
So before a parent raises a concern that his or her child has been the subject of bullying, I would encourage them to read the school district's policy and to make sure that they understand what bullying means, because once an allegation is made, it can't be taken back.
Wow, that's strong. So I would think that it is very difficult to know at what point do you call an attorney that you need that help. I know the schools do as much as that they can, but
There is
At what point?
an investigation procedure that
Okay.
is part of the bullying law that must be followed, and it's very time sensitive. And I would say that generally speaking, within about 10 days from the complaint being lodged, an investigation is usually completed.
Okay.
And so there's not a lot of time to get a lawyer between the time the report is made and the time the investigation finishes. But if parents feel that their child's side of the story wasn't appropriately elicited through the investigation,
Okay.
and they have some information that they would like to share, they could contact counsel to help them with the appeal process, because they do have the right to appeal.
Okay.
The superintendent must either sign off on the recommendations and findings that are made by the person who investigates the bullying allegations, and then the superintendent has a duty to report the findings to the Board of Education, and ultimately it is the Public Board of Education that makes the final decision, and the board can either accept, reject, or modify the recommendations. At the appeal hearing, the parents have an opportunity to persuade the board one way or the other.
Okay.
And an attorney could help with respect to the appeal process. It's also important for parents to know that if they're not satisfied with the appeal before the board, which oftentimes doesn't even have to happen once a lawyer gets involved,
Right.
because sometimes lawyers can work things out without going through the formal
Right.
process.
Yes.
But if the formal process is going forward and the parents are not happy with the outcome, they have additional rights to appeal to the Commissioner of Education.
Okay, that's good to know. So what if your child does not have special needs, but there is a bullying instance, or you think that something has happened within the school? Could they contact your firm and you would help their family?
Absolutely. We have several of those cases currently that I am handling.
Okay, and what areas of New Jersey do you cover?
We are a statewide practice.
Okay.
We have clients as far south as Little Egg Harbor and as far north as Emerson.
Okay. So what should parents do if they believe their child has been bullied?
In addition to reading the policy and having a conversation with their child, they need to find out how to file a bullying complaint with their public school district. Some districts have HIB forms on their website.
Okay.
Sometimes they're not on the website and you actually have to call the principal's office and find out where to go and find that document. It must be in writing, and so that an investigation can commence. And because there are such stringent timelines, I would encourage that the complaint be filed as soon as you're able to file it.
Okay.
If you're not sure how to prepare the complaint, that's another thing that our office can help with.
Okay.
Sometimes bullying takes place over a series of months or years,
Yes.
and you want to make sure that when and if you file a complaint, that it's comprehensive and that it includes all of the incidents that you want the school to be aware of.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Say your child is being bullied. You do not know that your child is being bullied. Maybe there's a conversation that we could have with our children to encourage them or let them know what rights they have. Meaning, if somebody is doing something, another child is doing something that's hurting them, but they're too afraid to go to someone, maybe a parent could sit down with their children, just have the conversation. I'm not saying this is happening to you, hon, but I want to let you know what rights you have. And if someone is doing X, Y, and Z, to please come to me. Or if you don't feel comfortable, just make sure if this ever does happen, that you keep this so I have it. Or do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that they have the documentation that that's actually happened to them.
Absolutely. I would encourage parents to, once they read through the school district's policy before the start of the school year, that they sit down with their children and they educate their children about what bullying is, A great way to show them what it looks like is to take them to see the recent movie that just came out, Wonder.
Right.
I saw it over the weekend.
Yes.
It's a fabulous example of what
Yeah.
bullying looks like. Also, I think the schools in our area do a very good job about educating students by showing them videos and bringing in speakers to talk about it at all levels, from kindergarten through high school. There's always someone within the school building who they should be able to go to if they feel that they want to make a report. And even if the bullying is not happening to your own child, but your child witnesses someone else being bullied, it's imperative that they understand that they should report it, because if it's not reported, it is not going to be addressed.
Right. So, as a mom, there are things that have happened, even with my children, and stories of people that I know. So, I have always wondered, like, what to do. So what do you do if you feel, like, what are the first steps? I know that you said you fill out a form and such, but do you go to your guidance counselor? Do you go straight to the principal? Should you call the mom? Like, what should you do?
Generally, when you feel that your child has been bullied, if there's a relationship between the parents, oftentimes parents will try to work it out amongst themselves. By the time cases come to me, that's not happening. There's usually a deeper issue, and so a formal complaint is filed, and it usually starts with the principal of the school, and then the principal usually hands that report to an anti-bullying specialist.
Which all schools have one, right?
Absolutely, they're required to have one. And then an investigation unfolds and the children are interviewed. I think another important thing for parents to understand is that the school district representatives are entitled to speak to children and interview them to do their investigation. That is something that the law obligates them to do. And while they do have to notify parents when their children are involved in a bullying incident, either as an aggressor or as a victim, and tell you that an interview is going to take place and an investigation is ongoing, they are not required to invite you in, and you're not entitled to be present during the interview process.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wondered about that.
The reason is because school district officials stand in loco parentis, which is a legal term of art, and it really means in place of the parents. So you're essentially entrusting the welfare of your children with the school district officials in your town.
I see. So what if you feel strongly about being involved?
You're not entitled to be present during the investigation. You are entitled to request a copy of the investigation records. They would be redacted to protect the confidentiality of other students, but you are entitled to know what was asked of your child and how your child responded.
Okay, wonderful to know. Do special needs students have additional rights?
Yes, they do. Best practices in New Jersey tell us that if a special needs student is either alleged to have bullied or been bullied, the IEP team or the 504 team, depending on whether your child has an IEP or a 504, should really be convening a meeting to address whether the IEP is appropriately addressing that child's behaviors.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Now we did discuss this about when we should seek legal counsel, but just to be clear, we want to seek legal counsel after we have gone through the steps through the school and we don't feel that we are receiving the attention needed for the matter, or
parents can wait until then if they feel like the investigation process was not done fairly. They can seek legal counsel to help them draft a HIB complaint.
Okay.
And they can seek legal counsel if they want to file an appeal.
Okay. Tell us where you're located.
We're in Cranberry, New Jersey, which is right off exit 8A of the New Jersey Turnpike. It's about an hour and 10-minute ride. We often do phone consultations initially, and generally parents will come to our office twice.
Okay.
The first time would be for an initial consultation, and the second time would be to bring their child in. I have the fortunate experience to be able to meet every child that I represent.
That's great. And then once that happens, how are you involved?
It depends on what parents come to see us for. If it's a special education matter, sometimes parents come because they feel that their child is not receiving appropriate services within the school district setting, whether it's a peanut allergy and they're not getting appropriate accommodations in the classroom or the cafeteria, or whether it's support services for a learning disabled student or a student who has ADHD. We could be involved in the development of an IEP. We could be involved in referring parents to experts who are either neuropsychologists or psychiatrists or learning disability teacher consultants who perform evaluations to provide parents with guidance on educational programming and placement. Oftentimes we refer clients to experts, and once we know what a child's needs are, we are in a position to have a conversation with the IEP team or the 504 team to say, hey, look, this is what this child needs and you're not doing it.
Right.
So parents come to us for a whole host of reasons. Sometimes they want us to just stay involved, to monitor a case throughout the years, because they have a right to an annual review. If a child has an IEP, every year the IEP team, the child study team, meets with the parents to review the IEP. And oftentimes we accompany parents to those meetings.
Okay, that's good, because I know with an IEP, you know, sometimes parents have to fight for that, you know. Maybe they don't recognize that their child needs one, then they discover that they should have one, and what does that look like? What does that mean to me?
So in order to get that process started, a referral, a written referral, has to be made to the child study team. Usually it goes to the director. And that referral can come from parents if they believe their child has a need, or it can come from somebody within the school system. It could come from a teacher who's noticing that a child is having a particular issue that's out of the norm. Once that written referral is made, a timeline starts to kick in, and the school district has to convene a meeting to talk about what the concerns are. And then if evaluations are warranted, that's an entire other process that has its own separate timeline. So as I said before, it is highly regulated, and because parents are not necessarily informed about this at the outset because they've never had a special needs child before, our office can sort of guide them through that process and micromanage everything.
That's wonderful. So really, if you have any questions for your children, what's going on, what rights you have through the school, they could call you.
Absolutely.
And you could have that conversation, consultation, and start the process if it's necessary.
Absolutely.
So,
and sometimes it doesn't wind up going into litigation, and it's amicable, and we educate parents, and a little bit of education goes a long way.
And I think that's a big part of it. We don't have the education. We don't know.
That's right.
Right? We don't know our rights. And really appreciate you coming on, sharing a little bit about our rights, because I know there's so much more.
Yes.
That we could talk probably for hours about this.
Absolutely.
But thank you for enlightening us and coming on the show.
Thank
So
you.
really
It was my
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yes, absolutely. And we will see you soon.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, please reach out to Mariann Crincolli, and it sounds like she'll be able to answer you. And this is a very serious topic, bullying, and any special needs issues that you have. she will be able to help you. So thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.